Hi, I'm Alana. Welcome back to The Rustic Wife. Today I'm going to be talking to you about seed starting mistakes, a few that I've made and a few that I know about that I can share with you, and hopefully that'll help you avoid the things that I've done and some of the ones that I haven't done. It's something that I've learned from and hopefully you can too, but I'm going to just show you a few of the things that we've done that has made our seedlings look a little bit less than healthy. So here's an example of what you shouldn't do. You should not plant your seeds indoors too early. They'll get stressed, root bound, and these should have been repotted, but you'll see this is a 72 cell pack, and I honestly didn't have enough room to repot them before I put them outside. I'm going to take them outside today, but you'll see signs of stress here. Not only are they too big for this size of a little cell, but you'll see some damage here on the leaves. This is just all signs of stress. If you look underneath, you'll see the roots coming out there. And over here, I've pulled one out for you to look at, and that is root bound. It's in desperate need of more space. So if I don't get these outside soon, they are not going to do well. But this is just an example of what not to do. Do not plant them too early. I know better, but I do it every year. I just can't wait to get my hands in dirt, and I just pull some stunt like this all the time. Another mistake people can make with their seedlings is to not pay attention to the plant itself. It tells you if they're stressed or needing something, and in this case, these celery seedlings look like they need some nitrogen. Apparently, nitrogen deficiency starts off with the older leaves kind of yellowing a bit, which is the case here. And eventually, if it doesn't get enough nitrogen, the yellowing will move inward to the newer leaves and then stunt the plant. So we will give these seedlings a bit of fertilizer and see if that helps too. But you don't want to give them too much because you don't want to get like a bionic growth spurt before you have to take them out to the garden to plant, because we aren't going to repot these. Here are my snapdragons. The germination rate, as you can see, was fantastic. The seeds are tiny, tiny little speck seeds, and you'll see every single one of them basically has germinated, and they're doing quite well. But a mistake is just to leave these like this. There are, oh gosh, probably about 30 little plants in there. So even though it's frustrating to do it and sad, you have to pull out every single plant but one. So I sowed them too thick to start off with, and that was a mistake that I made, and I do it every year. But the other mistake I would make would be to not thin them out. So don't sow them as thick and thin them out if they all do germinate, because you're going to want that one plant to get all the nutrients. You don't want them fighting for nutrients, and you want them to grow strong and healthy. Another trick for onion seedlings is to trim them up a bit. Once they get about 5 inches high, we trim them right back to about 3 inches, and we're just going to trim them once. The trimming helps strengthen the stems, and it makes for a sturdier onion. But we don't want to trim too much. We've done that before, and I think every time you trim, it's just kind of like a passage for bacteria to get in and cause disease on your seedlings. We did that one year, and it was last year, we trimmed about 3 times, I think, and they got diseased. I don't know if that had anything to do with trimming too much or if the disease was in the soil, but that can happen too. Another thing to consider as well when you are planting your seeds is make sure that the soil is packed down fairly tight. You don't want it too tight so that there will be no oxygen for the roots when the seed germinates, but you want to make sure it's fairly tight. So when you're going to transplant these, it comes out as a plug. You don't just rip the root out and all the soil fall off the root. You want it to transplant as a plug. So also have sufficient lighting for your plants. You'll see these little seedlings here. They're reaching for some light, and the ones in the center are fine. They're nice and straight, but the ones at the edge here, they're reaching for some light, and that's when you get leggy plants. So what will happen is they'll just keep looking for light, and they'll grow, and they'll be thin and leggy, and they won't have strong roots and they won't have strong stems. So make sure there's sufficient lighting. Another mistake that can be made, and we've done it here, is just be mindful of the environment that your seedlings are in, the temperature. You'll notice the difference between these tomatoes and these tomatoes. These ones were down in under the grow lights. Now it's cooler downstairs in the basement than it is up here, and you'll notice how nice and green the foliage is here, and the stems, notice the stem color here for this healthy one, and over here, you can see here, the stems are purple, which is an indication that it's kind of the tomatoes are getting stressed from it being too cool. There's a better shot of the purple stem right there. You can see if I put my finger behind there. Purple, and the nice healthy color of this tomato seedling. So we've brought them all upstairs, and hopefully that will correct itself. Hi, Lulu. Another thing that people sometimes do when they grow their seedlings is to not harden them off before they take them out into the garden. So your seedlings are indoors when you're growing them. They're under light, they're kind of pampered with a nice temperature, no wind. So when you want to plant them into your garden, you want to, about 7 to 14 days before, you want to bring them outside for a period of exposure to the wind and possibly rain and sun. So that's called hardening them off. You need to kind of acclimatize them to the outdoors so they don't go into shock if you plant them directly into your garden. They can get sunburnt. The stress of the transplant without the hardening off period can actually kill them. So what you want to do is you want to bring them outside for a period of time, put them in the shade so they're not in the direct sunlight, bring them out for about an hour each day, or on the first day, and then maybe 2 hours the second day. Third day, maybe bring it up to 3 hours, and then gradually bring it into the direct sunlight, and then gradually just leave them outside overnight as well. And then they will be acclimatized to the outdoors, and you can plant them into the garden. So another thing too, don't let them dry out when they're outside. The wind can dry them out very quickly, so make sure you pay attention to the watering situation too. Another stunt that you don't want to pull is to have plants with very different germination rates. You can see these tomato plants have grown quite a bit, and these pepper plants are just starting to germinate here. They were planted on the same day, and you can see how small the peppers are. I've had to keep the dome on top of this tray in order to keep the soil warm for the peppers. But in the meantime, I've caused some damage to the tomatoes that are here. So you want to make sure that the germination rate is very similar if you're going to plant them in the same tray with the domed lid, because once the seedlings come up, that's when you're supposed to pull off the domed lid and allow for some air circulation for your plants. I'm a real great one for teaching people how to do stuff when I break all my own rules. Starting seeds indoors is a great way to save money and to start your garden, whether it be flowers or vegetables. But just try to avoid these mistakes that I made, and a few that I didn't but told you to avoid because I've done it before. So if you enjoyed the content of my channel, please consider subscribing and hit that like button, and I'll see you again next time. Okay. So it's just, start your garden. I don't even know what I was going to say. I know this because I've done them. Well, I'm not going to blame myself totally. James is part of this too. So I'm going to share with you a few of the mistakes that I've made with my garden. Otis! Hey! Stop! Starting seedlings from, hi Otis. Starting seedlings from seeds. Odie, stop. Ugh.
Bye.